The SEAL Admiral asked her call sign as a joke until Iron Widow made him collapse in shock. The ballroom shimmered with polished brass and pressed uniforms, rows of medals catching the chandelier light like constellations pinned to navy blue skies. It was the annual Naval Special Warfare Gala, a room full of decorated operators, commanders, and legends whose names were spoken carefully and often quietly. Laughter rolled in controlled bursts, glasses clinked, and stories of distant deployments drifted across linen-covered tables. At the far end of the room stood Admiral Jonathan Reeves, a SEAL who had spent 3 decades in the teams before rising through the ranks to command them. He was known for sharp wit, sharper instincts, and a memory that rarely failed him. When he stepped to the podium, conversations tapered off almost immediately. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice smooth and confident, "it's good to see so many old ghosts still walking." A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. Reeves enjoyed this part: the war stories, the teasing, the camaraderie forged in places most civilians would never understand. As he scanned the audience, his gaze paused on someone unfamiliar seated near the back. She wasn't in dress whites. She wore a simple black evening suit, no medals on display, hair pulled back tightly. She sat straight, hands folded loosely in her lap, observing everything but drawing no attention to herself. Reeves leaned slightly toward Captain Morales beside him. "Who's that?" he murmured. Morales followed his gaze and hesitated. "Guest of Commander Holt, sir." Reeves nodded, but kept studying her. Something about her composure felt deliberate. After the formal remarks and the applause, Reeves descended from the stage to mingle. He shook hands, clapped shoulders, exchanged coded jokes about operations long declassified only in rumor. Eventually, he reached Commander Holt's table. "Holt," Reeves greeted warmly, "you survived retirement." Holt grinned. "Barely, sir." Reeves turned his attention to the woman. "And you are?" She stood smoothly, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, but not performative. "Mara Vance." "Not a name I recognize," Reeves said lightly. "That's usually intentional," she replied, voice calm. A few nearby officers chuckled, assuming it was a clever civilian quip. Reeves tilted his head slightly. "You former service?" "Contracted, years ago." "Ah," Reeves smiled, the teasing tone returning. "Then you must have had a call sign. Everyone worth their salt has one." Holt shifted subtly in his seat. Mara didn't. Reeves leaned back casually. "Let me guess. Something fierce, I'm sure. They always are. So tell me, what was it?" There was a brief pause, not long enough to be awkward, just long enough to feel intentional. She met his eyes directly. "Iron Widow." The words landed softly, too softly for the weight they carried. Reeves' smile froze, his posture stiffened. The color drained from his face so abruptly that Morales half rose from his chair. "Sir?" Reeves blinked once, twice. His hand, still loosely holding a glass, trembled almost imperceptibly. "That's not funny," he said quietly. No one at the table understood the shift, except Holt, whose jaw had tightened. Mara didn't change expression. "I don't joke about the dead." The room's ambient noise seemed to dull around their table. Reeves' breathing grew uneven. "Iron Widow was attached to Black Spear," he said, voice lower now, stripped of ceremony. "Black Spear was wiped out." "Not entirely," Mara replied. The Admiral stared at her as if seeing a ghost rise from the ocean floor. Black Spear was a classified task unit formed during a particularly volatile stretch of overseas operations. It operated off-books, its missions buried under layers of compartmentalization. Officially, the unit ceased to exist after a catastrophic ambush nearly a decade earlier. Casualties were heavy, survivors were few. Reeves signed letters to families himself. That call sign was earned in Helmand after the extraction. Mara nodded once. Yes, sir. The Admiral's knees buckled. It wasn't dramatic, not a faint in the theatrical sense, but his body gave way under the weight of memory and disbelief. Morales caught his arm as the glass slipped from his fingers and shattered against the polished floor. Conversations around them halted. Holt stood immediately. "Get him water," someone called. Reeves waved them off weakly, eyes never leaving Mara. "You're dead," he breathed. So were the rest of them. The silence thickened. Mara crouched slightly to meet his seated level once he'd been eased into a chair. "Sir," she said evenly, "with respect, you were told what you needed to be told." Reeves ran a hand over his face. Iron Widow pulled 3 operators out under heavy fire, carried one on her back through 2 clicks of hostile terrain, took shrapnel and kept moving. 4, she corrected gently. There were 4. His head snapped up. "Ward," he said. It wasn't a question. Yes. The name hovered between them like a fragile relic. Elias Ward had been one of Reeves' brightest protégés, a tactical mind paired with reckless loyalty. His reported death had haunted the Admiral for years. "He didn't die," Mara said quietly. Reeves' breath caught. "That's impossible. We recovered—" "You recovered what you were meant to," she interrupted softly. "Ward was extracted separately, off-grid." The Admiral's world tilted. Holt placed a steadying hand on Reeves' shoulder. "Sir, there are details you weren't cleared for." Reeves let out a hollow laugh. "I commanded the teams." "Yes," Mara agreed, "you did." The implication wasn't disrespectful, it was reality. Compartmentalization in special operations could fracture even the highest authority. Reeves leaned back slowly, eyes shining not with anger, but with overwhelmed recognition. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Because Ward asked me to deliver something when the time was right." She reached into her inner jacket pocket and withdrew a small, weathered metal tag. Not a dog tag, something else. Etched coordinates and a date. Reeves stared at it as if it were sacred scripture. "He's alive?" "Yes, sir." The Admiral closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, the shock had settled into something steadier. Awe. "Iron Widow," he repeated, almost reverently now. Around them, officers pretended not to listen, but every ear strained. The myth of Iron Widow had circulated in fragments, whispered during late-night deployments and long flights home. A civilian contractor who fought like a SEAL, a woman who refused recognition, who vanished after the worst day of Black Spear's history. Some claimed she died, others claimed she walked away. None knew for certain, until now. "You were never listed among the fallen," Reeves said quietly, "nor among the living. That was the point. Why reveal yourself now?" Mara glanced briefly around the room at the younger operators watching discreetly. "Because myths become distorted, and because Ward believes it's time." Reeves studied her with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "He knew I blamed myself," he murmured. "He knew," she confirmed. A long silence followed, heavy with years of unresolved grief unraveling in real time. Finally, Reeves straightened slightly. "Stand up," he said. She did. Despite the earlier collapse, his voice regained command presence. "For years, Iron Widow was a story we told ourselves to remind ourselves what courage looks like. Tonight, that story breathes." A murmur rippled through the ballroom. Reeves signaled for a fresh glass of water, hands steady once more. "Tell me about Ward." Mara's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "He still chews sunflower seeds before planning sessions." Reeves laughed through lingering emotion. "Of course he does." As the evening continued, word spread table to table. The quiet woman in black wasn't a civilian guest. She was Iron Widow, the operator who defied casualty reports, the reason some men made it home. and long after the chandeliers dimmed and the gala concluded, officers would replay the moment the admiral had asked lightly for a call sign, only to be confronted by one that carried the weight of sacrifice, survival, and secrets buried deeper than rank. Because sometimes the most powerful names aren't spoken loudly, they're carried silently, and when they finally surface, even admirals feel the ground shift beneath them.